Hello, welcome to the Attractions Group podcast where we have a new background.
We do have a new background. Can't see it so much right now, but yeah, if you can't see and you're trying to figure out, they're carousel horses.
Yes.
There's a correct answer.
Wow, and we have new sound effects too. How about that?
No,
Um,
we've had them there. I just haven't played with them before. So,
all
Clean
right.
Steinberger Green, is that the best title you can come up with?
Green. Well, I love the word green. It's so good because I'm not going to get into it too much, but like, one, it's St. Patrick's Day, obviously, but two, in the Charles Dickens Christmas novella, The Haunted Man, there's it's about like the subtitle of that book is like the danger of forgetting, and it's kind of very similar to A Christmas Carol, where it's like it's a ghost story and there's a guy who's not very nice and he becomes nice by the end, and the thing that makes him nice is that he just remembers to remember his life, and he's so overwhelmed with gratitude that he just has to become a good person and super nice. And he says very loudly and very passionately, he proclaims, Lord, keep my memory green. And I just think that is one of the greatest sentiments in the world. And so green for St. Patrick's Day, but also green because I just wish my memory to be kept green. It's like Aristotle says, oh, that I may be beautiful on the inside. So okay.
Is that correct answer?
Okay, good. Good. And you're the luck of the non-Irish logistics liaison, which is extremely alliterative. So I like the alliteration. Is there any story there?
No, there's no story to that whatsoever. I'm not Irish. I don't believe my wife has Irish in her either. And obviously, our kids have no Irish in them. So we have no Irish connection whatsoever. No McConnells, no McCabe's, no mix whatever, other than the
No
occasional trip to McDonald's.
O'Leary's.
No.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah. So no O apostrophes, not in the
Yeah.
family line that I'm aware of. That's why I'm the luck of the non-Irish. So it would just, which generally speaking translates to bad luck, actually. So
Yeah.
I'm the person that doles out the bad luck to people.
Do you ever find any four-leaf clover?
I have.
Okay,
Now,
I've never. I'm yet to see my first one. So
I don't think it brought me good luck though. I think it just brought me, you
no.
green stained jeans or t-shirt, whatever. Could
Okay,
be.
but there's no
That's
better color for your
years.
jeans to be stained than green, because then maybe if your jeans are stained green, your memory will be stained green as well.
Why do you
Like
call them? Yeah, the green jeans, but they're blue. I don't know why people think. Anyway,
well, all right, all right, all right. All right, all right. Welcome to the show. Let's talk a little bit about what we had some news pieces that we were like not super recent, but we just had never mentioned on the show before that we wanted to hop into. What were? Oh, I know one of them. Family Kingdom. It's just in case you're just like haven't heard about this yet. There's a park in Myrtle Beach called Family Kingdom that has a wooden roller coaster, and it's a pretty small little boardwalk park. They are going to be adding an RMC Raptor. This is so great. They just released a like picture of the layout that they're going to have. It's very similar to Stunt Pilot or to the first RMC Raptors like Railblazer and Wonder Woman, but it's a little different. It doesn't have the pre-drop that Railblazer has, and it so on and so forth. But I also think this is exactly just now that I'm in my share my opinion that nobody asked for about Family Kingdom. And that's what I'm doing here now. But oh well. I think this is exactly what RMC should try to sell the Raptors to. The large park model with Jersey Devil and Wonder Woman at Magic Mountain. People like those rides. And obviously people love Railblazer and they love Wonder Woman at Fiesta Texas and they love Stunt Pilot. But I do just like genuinely think it's not gonna be a high capacity ride. It doesn't no it's a single rail roller coaster. It's had 8, 12 people a train max. They build the moving stations to keep the capacity as high as they can, but these are really good rides. They don't because it's a single rail, the cost of materials is not super high. You can build it a little cheaper. I think a park like Family Kingdom is going to be great for this. And so I hope that Family Kingdom gets one, and then I don't know, a bunch of other small parks are like, we want in on that too. But we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. And I read something, David, about Universal in Bedford, the new Universal project in the UK.
Yes. Apparently, there's some
Something having
drone problems. They're
some
flying drones.
drone problems. Okay,
Yeah.
and
Does that really surprise me? People want to get the inside scoop of what's happening inside a park during construction. I get
right,
it. We'll fly the drones over there. That's private property, and that this is obviously in England, not New England, but Great Britain. But you
the
do
old
see
England,
that. I'm sorry.
old England, not New England, old England.
But you do see that at different construction sites for parks here in the states, parks that have been closed, or parks that have been being demolished.
Yeah,
You know, I don't know where the laws are as far as what is uh, public airspace versus you're over private property, but
me too.
not a good practice to get into. Now that
Yeah,
doesn't mean that someone doesn't do that unauthorized and it shows up in YouTube that I haven't pressed the play button and watched it, bump up their views. But at the same time, I guess I'll be a hypocrite in that answer. Don't fly the drones. That's private property. Save the surprise until you get to the park.
yes, agreed.
That's my
Now,
suggestion.
agreed only to some extent because I too am guilty of.
Yeah.
I really do want to know every single thing that there is to know about every single theme park and roller coaster in the world. And if that means watching illegally obtained drone footage,
As long as it's on public domain, why not?
right, right. Now, there was at least one more thing we wanted to hop into. We have a really exciting interview coming up that I think we're both excited to drop into. But if there's any more pieces of news across the coaster theme park attractions industry world, we should hop into that.
It's mid March, meaning a lot of the first wave of parks opening for summer operations has started.
Yes,
Dollywood, as a matter of
yes.
fact, opened up on Friday, had beautiful weather Friday and Saturday, and by Monday they were already closing early because of cold weather. So welcome to the Midwest in
Right.
March. It was 70 degrees 2 days ago where I'm at here in Cincinnati, and I'm looking out the window right now, and there's snow on the ground. So 70 degrees. Actually, I think we had all four seasons in one day back on Sunday. I think we had a touch of summer. You had the mid 70-degree temperatures and the hint of humidity in the air. And then you had the spring storms that come in. And then overnight you had the fall winds. And then by morning you have snow on the ground. So every couple of years,
Oh yeah.
we get all four seasons in 24 hours.
I
Doesn't
like
happen every
that.
year.
Now,
Definitely got it
I,
this year.
I think I can remember getting four seasons once back. It was like late December in 1963.
How did you remember that?
Well, this is a reference, but
Oh,
maybe someone in the comments will get it, and then they can let you know what it means. But I'm not going to tell you. You're gonna have to wait for somebody to comment what that means.
all right. But also, like I said, the first wave of parks that are opening, and it's going to be a couple weeks in the next set. New attractions opening. Of course, Night Fight Expedition. There still is no opening date for that. It's just in spring, so I guess we haven't even hit spring yet. Unfortunately, we're still in winter, so it could be next week. It could be 90 days from now. They had the media day, which neither of us were able to attend. Former host Don Helbig, he was there, and I think it's nearing. It's not an announceable time yet. And then with the park in my backyard, Kings Island, their Phantom Theater opening nightmare is scheduled to open. They put it out there. They've had a couple different media days to open on April 18th, which I believe
Yep.
times out when their first day of operation is. So that's
Yeah.
good. The last couple of years, it's been a kind of an unfortunate trend of attractions not being ready for opening day, and it's good to see that that Sally Dark Ride has done this refurb on a ride there in the park, and they're going to open it seemingly on time.
Yes, and I also saw Kings Island is doing some auctioning for old
Yes.
prop pieces and set pieces coming from Boo Blasters, which is super cool. I would love to record all of these from one of the Boo Blasters ride vehicles. I mean, holy moly! I might have to try to bid on them. I saw them. Well, actually, my friend, shout out to my buddy Silas McNutt, who is a coaster enthusiast I used to know. Well, I still know him. I mean, clearly, but he was in like downtown Lebanon about 2 months ago and just saw the ride vehicles for Boo
I
Blasters.
believe they're getting painted up there. I think that's where they were.
Yes, yes. And he'd send me a picture and he was like, dude, what is happening here? And I had no idea, truly. But I guess now we know they're repainting for the purpose of this. Okay, cool. Cool. Well, we do have a really exciting interview. We've got actually a series of really exciting interviews coming up in the next couple of weeks. Tell us a little bit about that, David.
Today's or the next couple weeks.
Just the next couple of weeks, yeah.
What you caught me off guard. I don't have the schedule in front of me. We have Elizabeth Ringus, who is president
Yes.
of American Coaster Enthusiasts. She'll be on, I
Yes.
believe, in 2 weeks. Matt Eckert, the president of Holiday World, is
Yes.
scheduled to be on. It was actually, we were supposed to interview him today, and then he had some. They have some media things coming up, and there's going to be next week, and some more media things came up, and so that is in the queue. It's I'm not sure exactly when that's going to take place, other than
We're
sometime.
coming up.
We
Yes,
have,
coming up.
as soon as there is a date that they can announce, or they're not going to make the announcement on our podcast, but as soon as there's a date that can be announced, word is that we'll have Wes Ramey back on the show from Dollywood to talk about Night Flight Expedition. And but that date has not been set yet, and probably as soon as they can announce a date, that'll happen. But right now, there's no date for that. And there's a handful of other people that are interested in coming on, but we don't have a date for it yet. And we're pushed down to late April already. So
Cool.
there's no real pressure to get that set up.
Cool. Well, I'm very excited to have Elizabeth Ringus back on. We'll talk about like the relocation of Fantasialandia and talk about the Gerflowers in Guatemala and just go absolutely insane with the level of coaster discussion we are having. I'm very, very excited for that.
And actually, it'd be good if sometime we could get a someone from one of those European parks on. That'd be good fun.
Amazing. Be awesome.
Because one of the things I'm very interested in is a lot of those parks don't have an IP that they draw off of. They don't have a Disney theme or any kind of a movie theme they go off of. But for whatever reason, their rides tend to be a lot more drawn to a story and themed that way than what we do here in the States.
Yeah.
I mean, we have giant roller coasters and some props, but they're not themed. It's just a different feel over in Europe, and it seems like it happens more often than not. Whereas if you want a themed attraction, you have to go to the Universals or the Disneys, and to an extent the Herschend properties. They're better. Herschend is probably one of the best storytellers that's not attached to a studios.
All right, I got to
But
push back a little because I think American coasters are themed quite well. I think the difference becomes into storytelling. I'm just going to say something extremely controversial here, and then you know, Space Mountain does not tell a story. There's no meaningful difference between like
it's
Space Mountain
immersive,
and
though. It may not tell a story, but it's
Yeah,
immersive.
it's immersive, but so is Copperhead Strike, so is Mystic Timber, so is Steel Vengeance. All of those are attractions with huge amounts of thought about what their theme is, and there's characters involved, and you can't really tell what the story is. It's not told to you. It's not in your face the way it would be on like Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind or something like that. But they're themed really well. I think Cedar Fair, especially since 2017 or so, has done a really good job theming their attractions. Banshee, even. I mean, that was like peak. Cedar Fair doesn't theme their rides; they're just building these big new B&M coasters and stuff. I would contend with you that yes, Banshee doesn't tell a story. There's no story involved.
Mhm.
I would contend that it's well themed. It has a station that makes sense. It all kind of goes together. All of the imagery and things that are used. Sure, you're not on the ride and learning about your favorite characters and so forth, but I think it's important and often missed in the coaster world to make a distinction between no theming versus storytelling. I think they're three different levels of the game.
I guess I make the distinction between what is themed versus
Yeah,
what's immersive.
sure.
I think there's a line. There's definitely a line in there. Not to pick on, because Banshee, you're right, is themed, even from the train station to the theming and the signage out front, and even the line queue
Yeah.
is done a very good piece of that. And one of the best themed attractions that hit the property in particular was Tomb Raider. And obviously it's not a Disney or Universal property, but now take and compare that to what Dollywood's doing with Night Flight Expedition. I think they're two different categories. That's just me.
Yeah, I mean, and Night Flight is definitely one of their more immersive rides. But I think like if you look at Tomb Raider and Night Flight, and then you look at like Banshee and Wild Eagle, th- I think Wild Eagle is a themed ride, and I think it's fun. They have that huge eagle statue out front. The trains have a cool theme. The- I I don't know. I think like Wild Eagle for my liking, and I understand that I- increasingly as time goes on, I care less and less about the stories and more about the art of the pieces of metal themselves. But I do think like Wild Eagle, for my taste, plenty themed.
Okay.
Maybe that's a little dramatic though. um, I don't know. I don't know.
That might be
Uh,
something
it,
we'll talk about when a guest bails on us sometime in the future. Let's go down the rabbit hole of theming versus immersion. What's the
it- yeah. And to your point, obviously, I do think the immersion, the storytelling is the thing that draws in all the people. And the parks in Europe do definitely do. Thank you. The parks in Europe do definitely do that very well, even without the use of IP. So I do. You're right about everything you're saying. I just think personally, I think theming is too big of an emphasis, and that's maybe the craziest thing ever. But anyway, okay, let's hop into our interview for this week. And thank you guys for checking us out this week on the Attractions Group podcast. All right, David. Well, here on this very special episode of the Attractions Group podcast, we have on with us Mr. Jeff Korte, who spent over 36 years in resorts in and around the Walt Disney Company here in Orlando. We're in for an absolute treat to talk about hospitality, guest experience, and a whole lot more. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on, Jeff. This is great. I don't know how many years have we known each other. When did you take over Saratoga Springs?
In 2022.
2020. Okay, so 4 years. I guess not as long as I thought. But anyway, no. Thanks for coming on. This is great. Great to have you on. Every once in a while, we get to have people that with a we'll have to say former Disney tag on in their pedigree. Which is a good thing. I mean, the Disney secrets should stay Disney secrets during that time, but definitely it is a gold standard for how other companies do guest experience and do operations, and has been for a long time. And it's great whenever someone does retire, we can have them on and they can talk about things they've learned and how that applies to other things going forward. So we appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me.
So Jeff,
Go ahead, David.
no, I went to the rock, paper, scissors thing to see a ton. Anyway, no, just because you said in the intro that 36 years you had at Disney. Start us at the beginning. How did you decide, hey, I would like to go work at Disney? And for context, 36 years, that takes us back to 1990.
Actually, 89. And but who's counting, right? So I grew up. I came to Disney for my first time when I was 7 years old, and fell in love with the company, and was afraid to go work there because I thought, gosh, if you saw how everything worked behind the scenes, it might ruin that magic. But fast forward, I was at UCF and I had my weekends free, and I was a broke college kid. And guess what? The need for money outweighs the need for magic. And so I got a part-time job in attractions at Epcot. Loved it so much that within 3 weeks, I went back to casting, turned full-time, changed my major in school, and haven't looked back since. And so the first couple of years were in the parks, and then, I always tell people, build a career around what you love, and I love to travel and stay in hotels. And so when French Quarter was opening, I got to be on the opening team for that resort as a front desk cast member. It was there that I got into leadership, and I won't bore you with all the details, but over the years, I moved around to almost all of the hotels.
You go into that a little bit, how you get involved into the leadership. But it depends, because we do have people from aspiring in the industry to upper level man. I mean, we got a full spectrum here. So if someone was looking to get into how they get into the leadership structure, and you don't have to go deep into it, just touch on it.
Sure, of course. I mean, as we opened the resort, it was a great opportunity and to really shine and showcase, and I had a passion for guest service, and I think maybe that shined through a little bit, and my leader saw that and gave me opportunities to train the new cast coming in, and also to be at the time we called them leads. That was kind of like in the outside world, a supervisory level. And then a leader is in the outside world like a manager. And so Disney had a program back then called Disney Management Development Program, and I was fortunate to be selected to be part of that. And through that process, you go to a resort for about 10 weeks, and you go through an intense training program. And so I did that at the Polynesian. And so it was there for, ended up staying there for about 6 months, and then got the opportunity to be a housekeeping leader. So they called me in the office and they said, hey, on Monday, you're going to report to, at the time it was Dixie Landings, it's now Riverside. And I said, thank you very much, appreciate the opportunity. As my answer always was, I never turned down opportunities. And but then I thought in the back of my head, gosh, I don't love cleaning. I don't know if I'm going to love this. And it turns out I did love it. I did love it. That you get a sense of family and housekeeping that you don't get in maybe some other departments, and so that sense of family really spoke to me. And so then I got the opportunity to open All Star Movies as a housekeeping leader. Again, moved around to many of the resorts as both a front desk leader and a housekeeping leader, and started to get some opportunities to TA. I was like the maternity fill-in. So whenever a proprietor level, that's the kind of the department head, whenever they went on maternity leave, I got to fill in for them. And then I got to spend some time in our corporate offices, which we call the line of business. And that was fun and exciting because you got to impact all of the resorts at once. That part I loved. The part I didn't love was I realized I'm an operator and I'm not meant to sit in an office all day. And so after a few years of doing that, I said, okay, it's time for me to get back to operations. So continued to work at several of the resorts. Eventually got the opportunity to become the general manager. My first general manager job was at Pop Century. And then I got to go to Saratoga Springs, where I met David. And
some annoying guy from Ohio that likes coffee.
It was great. It was great.
It's a great description of yourself, David. I'm glad we're all on the same page.
Then I got called back to the line of business again. So I did that for a little while, and then ended my career as the GM of All Star, which was really great. And so here I am today.
Well, Jeff, a lot of people have on their walls at home, they have a map that shows like the map of the U.S. or a map of the world, whatever it is, and they put a thumbtack on places they've been at your house, your condo, your apartment, wherever you live. Do you have a picture on the wall of the Disney resort and you just put the thumbtack you managed to work at? Because it sounds like, I mean, how many did you work at?
Oh gosh, I worked at almost all of them. I think I would be faster to count the ones I did not work at, and I would say that was like Grand Floridian, Contemporary, Old Key West. That's probably about it. I think I worked at all the others.
Is there a secret club of people or a hall of fame that they have at Disney? And if you can't mention this, whatever. I don't think there'd be any proprietary reason for that. But of professionals or executives that did go to all the properties, is there such a club that exists?
There is not such a club, no.
Is there an unofficial club that exists?
I'm sure there is.
Someone that can say, I had some sort of role at every property at Disney World.
Yeah, I mean, and it goes beyond just the resorts. I mean, the beauty about Walt Disney World is you can transition from parks to resorts, back to parks. I've got a previous coworker who's now going to be the director of island operations for the cruise line. And one who's now moving over to the beach properties, Vero and Hilton Head. So there's just lots of opportunities to be had at when you go to work for Disney.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, you kind of had a co-leader, a transitional leader role over at Vero, didn't you?
I did. It was, to your point, it was a transitional one. So my leader at the time was leaving the company, and I said to him, I said, gosh, um, he was in charge of 8 properties. So our vice president at the time, I'm like, that's a lot for her to try to take on. So I'm more than willing to try to help in any way I can. And that's kind of the way I've approached my career was, uh, I don't look for a lot of verbal praise when I do a good job and things of that nature. The best way you can a compliment is to lean on me, you know, make me your right hand. And that's to me the biggest compliment you can get from your leader. So they did. And so for a while I was leading Saratoga, I also had responsibility for Old Key West, Hilton Head, and Vero, which was really a lot of fun. And I enjoyed that.
So we have, a lot of theme park focus here on this show specifically. Of course, when you look at the big parks especially, there's lots of adjacent resorts, there's lots of hospitality, lots of lodging that's a part of the greater attractions industry. But if we're going to zoom in specifically on the attractions themselves and look at parks or family entertainment centers and things like that, how do you think the lessons that the pinnacle of hospitality, a place like Disney resorts, how do you think that some of those hospitality mindset attributes can go into creating a better experience for your guests in a non hospitality directly, a non lodging environment?
Well, what's interesting is that when you think about the resorts and parks as how they kind of dovetail together. Back when Walt Disney World was originally created, the resorts were meant to be an extension of the park. So
Mm.
back then we had the Magic Kingdom, and so you think about the Polynesian Resort as an extension of Adventureland, and you think about the Contemporary being an extension of Tomorrowland, and Fort Wilderness was, extension of Frontierland, and so on. So the theming that we have uh, helps to tell that story, and
Mm.
I think that's a big part of what Disney does is not only in the parks but also in the resorts. Every resort's got that story, and but when you think about from a hospitality perspective and the service, the great thing about resorts is your guests live with you. At the end of the day, at the parks, your guests, when the parks close, the guests go home. And when I worked in the parks, I would see, when I worked the land boat ride, which was my first attraction, I I would see a guest for 15 minutes on a tour, and then I wouldn't see them ever again. And in the resorts, you can really build that relationship with them. You see them day after day, and they tell you on their way to the parks what they're going to do that day, and on the way home from the parks when they come back to the resort, they share with you the experiences that they had. And so in the resorts, you really build that connection with your guests, which
Mhm.
enables you to really personalize the experience too.
Yeah, I never really thought of that. And I've talked with Disney people over the years a number of times, but no one's ever explained it that way. That Polynesian extension of Adventureland, and it totally makes sense. And when you said that, yes, absolutely, that lines up perfectly. It's the first I've heard that.
Yeah, Walt was brilliant, and as you think about the design of Walt Disney World, he was there for that component of it. Unfortunately, he didn't get to see it all through, but his brother got to do that for him, and so that the legacy of storytelling that Walt originally founded the company on still continues.
Good, Clee.
So I like the universality of this, the ways in which the concepts you take in a hotel, the concepts of just like being there for people and being, what is the famous hospitality quote? Hospitality is making your guests feel like they're at home, even if you wish they were, which is a classic. But I like the idea that those concepts are bigger than the hotel industry specifically. But
Mhm.
on the flip side, I now have the opposite question, which is if I'm a theme park operator and I'm a park president somewhere at a regional park that's pretty successful, and we want to open our first hotel, and we're going to open a hotel, and I've been talking to hotel people from around the area and trying to learn about hotel operations and how we're going to get this set up. What do you think is different about operating a hotel with built-in attractions, a hotel at a place like Walt Disney World, where you're at a resort and you're trying to keep them there and you have all of this entertainment for them? What do you think the difference is between operating a hotel like that and operating a hotel where maybe you're just in a destination that has a lot of famous or popular attractions going on?
Yeah, again, I think it a little bit goes back to that storytelling component where if you go to a hotel in the outside world or something that's adjacent to, maybe another attraction, the Disney hotels all have their own story behind them. And so that's a component of it. But then you also have to think about if I were to give advice to a president of a, say, theme park company who's wanting to build a hotel, I would really focus in on what is the service that you're going to provide, and how do you customize it to the individual? How do you personalize it? And and the thing about hospitality is, hospitality is not perfection. There are going to be things that go wrong in a destination, and so really focus in on how do you overcome that imperfection when it happens. And the great thing about being linked at Walt Disney World the way that we are is I've got a lot of tools at my fingertips to be able to solve those imperfections that
Mm.
maybe many resorts in the outside world may not have. So I'll
Also,
give you an example. If I have a guest that something went wrong in their vacation, and maybe they've got a little 3 or 4 year old, and their favorite character is Mickey, I can call and potentially set up a personalized meet and greet with Mickey. Doesn't happen every time, because Mickey's a busy guy, but it's an option that I can explore and see what tools might be available. But that's just one example. I've got lots of stories around where those things have happened.
And Disney does do that in a lot of ways. Is that the management structure puts a lot of the power into the frontline cast employees, cast members, whatever you want to call them. Back in the day, we took one of our first Disney trips down there, and I believe we were staying at the boardwalk. And yeah, and I'm not going to say anything that anybody who's doesn't work at Disney that visits Disney doesn't say is like, oh my goodness, everything costs an arm and a leg. But usually by the time you're done with the trip, you're thinking, okay, where can I spend more money at? But our trip was over, and we were getting ready to. Actually, we had already checked out, and our oldest daughter decided right there in front of the elevator bank to get sick.
Mm.
And so we still had a full day left until our flight left late in the evening. And okay, so now we got a sick child. What are we gonna do? Because we have no room to go back to. And cast member came in, and I think it was just a frontline cast member. It wasn't management at all. They found us an open room that we, free of charge, complimentary, whatever you want to call it. And they had people checking in on us all day while we stayed in that room until it was time to leave for the flight. And that's one of those things where it literally, because of I think the energy and the authority to make baseline decisions like that, turned what could have been a very sour experience to, oh my goodness, this has cost us all this money to do this trip, and now all of a sudden we have this to end the trip with. To okay, when are we going to come back? It is one of those things that really things fall off the rails. It wasn't really the resort's fault or the park's fault, where that may be, but the cast members came to save the day, unbeknownst to them, and that was probably our first trip back in 10 or 11, I think, and we've been going back ever since for DVC members, and then I get to know people like you. But so it's how important is that from a guest experience level to be able to place the ability to make those decisions on the front lines? How important is that, and what that, because that does set Disney apart, but how is that able to fundamentally modify a guest experience that may be maybe not necessarily the greatest, but to flip it over to being great?
That's a great question. And I will tell you, it starts from day one. One of the things I did as a resort GM was I would try to attend every resort orientation. And in doing so, I would have a chat with them to talk about the fact that they were empowered. I think some companies may set limits for their frontline employees, and I would tell them, you have no limits. Whatever it takes to turn around that guest vacation, that's what I want you to do. More importantly, I want you to treat the guests like they're your own family. That if, your grandma was, I'm making it up, walking through the resort, struggling, because maybe she's had a long day on her feet, assist her, get her a wheelchair, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
If you, there was one time where there was I used to tell this story. There was a gentleman cleaning the bathroom, one of our custodians, and it was the bathroom in the lobby, and he noticed that there was someone who had been in the stall for an unusually long time and started to get worried about him. So finally, he knocked on this stall door and said, "Sir, is everything okay? Do you need anything?" And the gentleman said, "No, it's not." And unfortunately, he had an accident and he had soiled his clothes and didn't know what to do. So the cast member went out to the lobby, found the gentleman's wife, went to their room, got him a change of clothes, and brought him back to him so that he could get cleaned up, walk out of that bathroom with his dignity. That's treating your guests like they're your own family. And that's what I would implore my cast to do is, think about if you saw your aunt struggling to get the luggage out of the car, what would you do? You jump in and help her.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what we should do. And so when it comes to putting limits on them, I would tell them, it's limitless. If you, whatever you need to do to take care of this guest, do it. But I would also say, if you comp their entire vacation because their burger was cold, we might have a conversation to think about this differently next time. You're not going to be in trouble, but we might need to calibrate what the expectation is. And so that really gave them the freedom to be able to do things like that and to find a room. I mean, there's been countless times where guests have said, "Hey, I really need a late checkout. My child is sick," and in DVC we traditionally don't give late checkouts because the villas are so large and they take a long time to clean, and we've got other guests coming in. So how do you empower them to maybe, find a different room, maybe just a studio, or maybe for those resorts that were villas and lodge rooms combined, maybe you could set them up in a lounge room if need be. So, just explore what options are available. Sometimes we don't have a clean room available to do that, but if you're treating the guests like they're your own family, you're going to look at what the options are to give the best possible option to them.
What are some of the biggest differences you've seen in the way that the hotels operate at Walt Disney World from the time you started to the time you retired? Of course, technology has developed in just at an insane rate over the last 30 years, but is that the biggest difference, or is the biggest difference in the clientele? Is the biggest difference in people's approach towards their vacations or towards each other, or is it some of all of that?
There's a couple things that come to mind. One, we are much more information rich today than we have been in the past.
Sure.
Disney has a relationship with a company called Medallia, and a lot of hotel companies use Medallia. And we get feedback not only at the end of the guest stay, but even during the guest stay, we invite the guest to tell us, okay, is something going wrong during your vacation? Let us know. And we've got a team of people, including the GM, who monitors that, and we make sure that we're following up on those things. So our ability to react to one of those imperfections in a vacation was able to happen much more real time compared to when I first started. A lot of times when something went wrong on a vacation, you didn't hear about it until it was too late.
Right.
And so, so information rich is one of the things. But then I will also share with you that over the years, as we've tried to improve the guest experience, those things that would wow a guest years and years ago no longer wow the guest. Now it's an expectation.
Yeah.
So you're forced to constantly raise that bar. And I'll give you a great example. I think it was probably in the mid 90s. We had a real heavy push to get rooms ready for the guests as soon as they arrived. And when guests arrived at 11 o'clock in the morning, and check-in wasn't until 3, when they got their room, they were really pleasantly surprised and thrilled that they were able to get into their room early. Fast forward later, ready rooms kind of became an expectation. And then so how do you raise the bar to meet that expectation every time? And so we spent a lot of time and energy looking at tools and things that would help us to be able to do that. And I will tell you, as a company, they've gotten really good at it. Again, it's not 100% all the time, but it's certainly something that they strive for.
I would say technology has helped that too, because now that when your room becomes available, it pops up on your app, or you get a text message for it. You can explore other areas of the resort, or you go to another place nearby at like Buena Vista or Orlando or Disney Springs for that matter, and then you don't have to show up until it magically says see how I put that, magically says that your room's ready.
Absolutely.
But, so Jeff, okay, let's assume it's probably a failing hotel if I'm the manager of it, but assume I'm managing a hotel and I'm trying to think what are the most important. I'm sorry, what?
No, I didn't say anything. You can. I didn't say anything. I don't know.
Okay. Well, we'll just say if you're like me, and I pray to God you're not, you're managing a hotel, and it's attached to a theme park, and it's like you said with the original resorts at Disney, it's an extension of the story there. What is the most important aspect from an operations standpoint to be focused on to get repeat guests? I mean, is it the guest experience? Is it the overall operations? Is it the story? Is it what would drive that to make people come back again and again? Because if you have a bad experience, obviously, it doesn't matter how cheap the room is, you're not going to go back. But what is the most important thing that a manager would need to have in mind for their frontline staff to disperse out?
It always comes down to service. Service trumps everything. If you stay in a resort, it can be the most beautifully designed resort in the world, but if the service is terrible, if the rooms aren't clean, if the food is cold, if the front desk is unfriendly, if the merchandise cast don't know their product, it just all of those things contribute to the experience. And the facility itself is a supporting character in the show, but the show itself, I'll start with the cast.
Yeah. And what does that look like? Maybe this is a hard and very deep question, I think, in a lot of ways. But like, what does that look like? How do you get your cast buy-in to care enough about the service culture that they're willing to do those things for every single guest?
As I said earlier, it starts from day one to lay the foundation as to kind of what you expect of them as they're coming to work at that resort or even for Walt Disney World. I mean, even when you come to work for Walt Disney World, you go through traditions, which teaches you that expectation. So I think it starts from day one, just laying down the foundation of the expectation. I'll say the second biggest component um, is the leaders of that resort all the way up through the chain have to walk the walk, and they have to be out talking to guests the way that we expect our cast to talk to guests. They
Sure.
have to they you know I would meet with my cast daily. I would have a huddle with them to review. Okay, these are what our guests are saying about us. And it was sometimes the good, and we would recognize people and say, "Hey, Johnny, you did a really great job with the Smith family. They wrote a letter," and I would share the letter. And we would try to focus in on those things to reinforce it with the rest of the cast. Occasionally, we would bring up one that it was maybe not so great, and we would say,
Sure.
"Okay." We wouldn't obviously name names as to who maybe didn't handle it so well, but we would say, okay, this isn't a situation that occurred. How could we have handled this differently? And we would have some really robust dialogue around that. And so it's just that it was a constant daily reinforcement. Um, and I think that's at the heart of it, is the leaders walking the walk and constantly reinforcing that, and then the constant communication with your cast to make sure that they understand what's important.
But Jeff, before we kind of pivot to this to what you're doing now, and maybe it'd be hard to narrow it down to one or two. Now, thinking back to your experience managing the resorts, now I'm sure you get into all types there, as far as the guest is concerned, from people that are just they're there to have fun, or people that they're there to, I'm sorry, they're there to complain. I'll just call it for what it is. So, do you have one or two stories that just stick out in your mind entertainingly, that from your time managing one of the resorts, be it Saratoga or the All Stars, whichever, that that just stick out?
Well, I'm going to start with a really good one, and then I'll start with one that started off not so good, and then we were able to get to good, and or hopefully get to great, actually. Um, so, uh, we talk about in hospitality, customizing and personalizing the experience, and we try to do that as much as we can, through the information that our guests give us. When you think about the volume that happens, that presents a real challenge. But when we get the information, rising to that challenge is super important. And this was not something that I did; it was a member of my team did, but it really resonates as one of those things that stood out in my career. Was when I was at Pop Century. We had some guests coming to stay with us, and the it was multi rooms, kind of like a family reunion, and the daughter organized it all. And the daughter had just gotten married, and we've somehow got a hold of all this information. I think she may have written a letter, and talking about what an important trip this was, because she had just gotten married, and just prior to her getting married, her father was in a car accident and was unable to not only not walk her down the aisle, but also they couldn't have the father-daughter dance. So we heard that father's healed now, doing well, and so um, a member of my team had gotten in touch with this family, got in touch with the daughter, and said, "Hey, tell me a little bit more about the story." And through the course of the conversation, found out some details about what the father-daughter dance song was going to be, and we found out what time they were going to be arriving. And so one of the things that he did was, when they were due to arrive, he rolled out a red carpet in the lobby, threw down rose petals all over the red carpet, and then when they arrived, invited the father daughter to have their dance, and he had the song to play, and they had their dance right there on the arrival to the hotel. There was not a dry eye in the house. It was
Okay, yeah.
a beautiful, touching moment. And so, that's an example of where when we get the information and we're able to do something really cool, we would try to do it. I'll tell you, on the flip side of that, there was one night when I was the GM at Saratoga, and at 1 o'clock in the morning, there was a guest who had one of those rented ECVs in their room, and the battery had exploded and caught the curtains on fire, and proceeded to set off the sprinklers in the whole building. So I get a call that one of our buildings is, on fire, and it really wasn't. I mean, the room had some, but the sprinklers went off in the whole building, and so they did their job and put everything out. But meanwhile, I had about 75 rooms full of guests who, once I got to the hotel, were sitting out on the pool deck waiting for new room assignments because their rooms were flooded. Their belongings were wet because the sprinklers went off, and so that was one of those moments where it was a real challenge. But we worked really hard, and they knew we worked really hard. The guests felt it, and really trying to make sure we took care of. I had little babies in cribs sitting on the pool deck waiting for a room assignment at 2 o'clock in the morning. So just, having that sense of urgency and communicating and making sure that they understood, when crisis happens, one of the biggest components is making sure that you're communicating to the guests. You think about times when hurricanes come. Those are not ideal situations, and sometimes we have to close the theme parks, but that communicating to our guests really solves a lot of issues when that happens. And then being proactive in our approach on how to recover from that situation makes all the difference.
Wow. Yeah, I think you're right, though. There is such a huge difference between like the proactivity and not. If you're experiencing something that's not what you're supposed to be experiencing, having someone come to you and say, "Hey, I'm sorry this is happening," is radically different than you having to go to them and say, "Hey, this is happening." Even
Yeah.
if the thing that they end up doing to recover the situation is the same, you having to go and have this awkward conversation where you say, I'm sorry to bring this up, but like this is bad, is just so different than having somebody come to you for that.
And I used to teach that to my leaders on the team, when I guess would come to the front desk and something went wrong in their vacation and they wanted to talk to a manager about it. One, I would tell the cast, you're empowered. So whatever has happened, you can solve it. So just ask the guests, hey, I know you want to talk to a manager. I am empowered. Please give me the opportunity. And if I don't bring it to your satisfaction, let me know and I will be glad to go get the manager for you. But that way you don't have to repeat the story more than once. Because the more times a guest repeats the story, in my opinion, the angrier they get. So if you can solve it on first contact, the better. The other thing I would tell people is, you may have noticed as we've refurbished the lobbies at our resorts, we used to have these big, long front desks. And now we have pods so that people can easily get out into the lobby and interact with the guests. If you have something's going wrong in their vacation, don't hide behind a desk. Get out there in front, hit it head on, shake their hand, listen, let them get it off their chest, and then find a way to solve it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Jeff, so you closed the book on a 36-year career at Disney, and that was back in October. Is that right?
August.
Okay. I think it's more or less to get away from the random coffee invites. So, which actually you were probably one of the last. I went through a period where I was fairly decently connected with a number of people at Disney, but I think I didn't backfill it with people so when people moved on or retired, such as yourself, I hardly know anybody there now, but because people are moving all the time. But now you are doing consulting, as your title suggests, Korte Strategic Solutions. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing these days.
Two of the favorite parts of our business. One was throughout my career, people helped me grow and develop and achieve my career goals. And so I always love to try to pay it forward and do that for others. And so, so coaching people, was one of the things of the job that I love the most, and one of the things I miss. And I thought, gosh, you know what? I'm still young enough. I still have something to give. And so why not continue that part of the career that I loved, and I can do it, much more easily and devote all my time to that. And so the coaching piece is one side of it, and it's career coaching. I've spent time coaching up and coming executives. I will tell you, when I was a new executive, I had imposter syndrome probably for the first year. So helping people to overcome that, and things of that nature. The consulting side of the business is one that, Disney has hired consultants over the years. And so I've learned a lot from them. And so, and having run hotels now for, over 3 decades, I feel like, gosh, there's a lot of folks out there who are running hotels that maybe could use a little guidance and help, not only on service, but also maybe to help their operation be a little more efficient, and create processes and things of that nature. So so that's what I'm doing today, and really enjoying it.
Is there any end of the industry that you focus on? Because obviously there's resort-oriented hospitality where you tend to get repeat guests more often, or versus the hotels that may be at an intersection, and they have a bunch of one-offs. Is there a different end that you focus on, or just whatever organization would want you to come on?
I'm open for either one, for both coaching and consulting, any really organization, because I think there are, when it comes to coaching leadership, as an example, there's elements of leadership that transcend businesses. It's not, hospitality leadership is leadership, whether it's leadership in hospitality or leadership in, a consumer-based business, like retail, as an example. And when it comes to the consulting side, I've had the good fortune of leading hotels and many different market segments, when it comes to either the value, the moderate, the deluxe. And so luckily, I believe that I could be of help and service to really any chain that's out there.
Okay.
Or even individual business.
If there are people listening in who are interested in hearing more about the coaching or hearing more about the consulting, where can they find some more information or get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me. My email, Jeff, is at jeff@korestrategicsolutions.com. And I'm happy to set up time with them and chat through whatever it is that they might need.
And all these links will be in the description.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yes.
All right.
Well, cool.
Hey,
what a great time. What a great time here.
Yeah. In final question, March Madness fan?
I don't follow it super closely, no.
Okay. Then I'll skip the follow-up question to that.
But I did wear my green today for St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, I like that.
I kind of forgot.
We have to pinch you, David. I think those are the rules.
No one's at the home office to pinch me, so I'm good.
Okay, good. Now, I do have one final question for you, and this is just one I love to ask everybody because I love roller coasters in my core. Do you have a favorite roller coaster?
Oh gosh, it's funny that you should ask that, because my brother was in town this last weekend, and I got to go experience all of them with him, and I will tell you, Guardians of the Galaxy is a game changer.
You're right.
Yeah. And what about Chris Pratt? I mean, he's on the pre the pre-ride video at Disney, and he's on the pre-ride video at Universal. You got to figure out how to get him at SeaWorld, I guess.
And he's now at he's in the he's at Legoland too, because he
no,
was.
I was wrong. I was wrong. It was a different voice on that.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah. It's a first and only time this month I was wrong. So, but it does happen.
Well, that's well, cool. Yeah, shout out to Chris Pratt, a true acting legend, just to theme park fans. No one else has heard of him. You've probably never heard of this guy, Chris Pratt, but in the theme park industry.
But thanks for coming on, Jeff. It's been great fun. I mean, we've been talking for a while, and I feel like we haven't even scratched the surface.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I enjoyed the conversation, so thank you.